wanted to bring it back to Joey Porter, who you kind of briefly mentioned yesterday. He's one of those freshman starters on that depth chart. You said he came last year and thought he was ready to burn that red shirt. Wasn't quite there. Now he's there and he's a starter. Can you talk about the progression that took place over the period of time, and what does it say about that cornerback room? It looks early on, at least, like you may have hit on 4 for 4 with that class.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. I think truly knowing the playbook on a level that allows them to go out and play fast and confident and aggressive. As you guys have seen, and not only based on numbers that have been printed, but also just looking at these guys. I mean, he has changed his body. I mean, he is a good-looking corner, as good as I have seen. And then just all the footwork stuff, the technique stuff that he's been able to learn from Terry and Tim and Viangelo. And then I think it's also been his mentality. Obviously growing up in a football family has helped him as well. It's funny. I think I mentioned this last week. He talked to the freshmen the other day about, don't stress out about where you're at right now. Last year Ellis played as a true freshman, and we're still really excited about Ellis. But he played as a true freshman while Joey redshirted, and now this year Joey's starting, and Ellis is going to play a significant role as well. So, everybody's journey and path is different. But he's in a really good place, and I'm proud of him because he's really just matured in every area. It's funny, I was talking to his high school coach today, and we were just talking about it, how well he's doing. I was kidding around with him because his dad started out, I think, as a wideout and kept kind of moving. And then I said, hey, you're going to keep moving all the way to D end? And he's like, no, I'm good right where I'm at.
Go to Mark Brennan.
Hey, James, thank you for doing this tonight.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, you talked a couple weeks ago to Steve about the depth of your offensive line and maybe playing some more guys. How many guys do you envision being able to actually play in a regular rotation? And are there some kids that maybe we haven't seen that you're expecting some things out of?
Yeah, and it's hard to say because we still got some battles going on right now. But I think 2 examples is probably, 3 examples, probably Caden, Dez, and Juice are probably the 3 that jump out to me. I hate doing this because then I miss someone and I get a text message when I get back. But those 3 guys probably jump out to me as guys that really done a nice job, and there's a lot of confidence in. We just got a really good group. I was thinking back, when I got here 6 years ago, and we had 5 offensive linemen on scholarship until we moved some guys over from defense. And I think about some guys right now that we would have loved to have then. So we're just in a really good position, and I think Trout's excited to be working with them, and he's done a really nice job. And to be honest with you, our situation too with, although Ty can't work with him, his presence and bouncing ideas off with Trout, I think is good. And then having Wendy Laurent back as a graduate assistant, we got 3 experienced O-line guys, 2 Penn Staters. I think that's been something that's been pretty cool is we're starting to get more and more, Penn Staters back in the building, that are either Penn State grads or lettermen.
Joe Giuliano.
James, you spoke at length yesterday about your first road trip in a pandemic, and I was just wondering, could you clarify your policy on players and their families? Will they be able to contact each other socially distanced, or would you prefer they don't have any contact at all?
So one of the things that has been really cool is, we've really kind of created a tradition and kind of a real strong family atmosphere that Friday nights at the hotel, after our meetings are done, it's been really cool. I mean, there's parents all over the hotel and in the lobby, and it's a great opportunity for them to connect. So those Friday nights have been special for everybody. And that's kind of what we're saying. We're not going to have, any visitors at the hotel. and we're going to try to limit it as much as we can after the game. Home games are going to be different, because their parents will be in town and maybe staying the night and going out to dinner, and that's where we're trying to really emphasize as much as we possibly can the social distancing and the mask. But we're going to try to limit the interaction as much as we possibly can. I know there's some schools that are literally putting like barriers up to keep people as far away as possible. So we'll see. We're hoping to do it through education, and we're hoping to do it through conversations and making people as aware of it as we possibly can. But it's not going to be perfect. We're just, again, Joe, we're just trying to control as many variables as we can.
Ben Jones?
James, they've added 20 yards to the team space on the sideline this year. Does that sort of thing pose any sort of logistical challenges? Are there things about game day that are different this year that maybe you just have to tackle?
Yeah, it will be different. Obviously the idea there was to have more space and be able to space everybody out. That's also why some people aren't dressing their entire team, so you can spread people out that way as well. But for us, not really, because although we have, so if you're looking from the press, the actual press box that you guys are in, our defense is usually, as you guys know, on the right side of our sideline, and our offense is on the left side, and the specialists are kind of in the middle. But what we typically do, Ben, as you know, is the ball moves down the field. The offense is able to take over that side of the sideline closest to the field. They get precedence, and no different than the defense would on the offensive side when the ball's moving down there from a substitution standpoint and things like that. So, no, I don't see that changing. And to be honest, it's one of those rules I could see staying. I could see staying, and sometimes it's silly that you can't kind of step out of that box a little bit. Maybe it's for sight lines to the games in some stadiums. Maybe that's why they put it in. I'm not sure, but it's one of those rules I could see just staying.
Dave Melander Jr.?
Hey, Coach, question for you. On Monday, Pennsylvania Department of Health, Dr. Levine came out saying that she thinks it's going to be very challenging for the Big Ten Conference to play football this year because of the quarantine coming back from state to state. I want to get your reaction to that.
Yeah, the way I understand it, the policies and the rules that are put in place for the everyday citizen of the state of Pennsylvania. That's not under our testing. That's not under our policies and procedures. Very few people are getting tested every single day and living in the type of bubble that we are trying to live in. So the way I understand it, the rules are more big picture and they're recommendations for the average citizen, not for people that are under the policies and procedures we are with everyday testing.
Tobias Wilborn?
Coach, when you look today and you guys only had one positive test throughout the whole athletic department, and you guys have had pretty low numbers for the last 3 weeks you've been reporting, what does that say about how things are going, and how do you kind of play that to keep going forward?
I don't want to say anything, Tobias, because I kind of get this feeling as soon as people feel like they're doing good and got a good system and don't respect the virus enough, then it gets you. So I just keep pounding the same messages home over and over and over again. I wake up in the morning respecting this virus. I go to bed at night respecting this virus, and just try to make all the decisions that we have to make, with the virus in mind first. Now, I literally just had a meeting. I was late getting on here with you guys because I had a meeting with my leadership council about some of the things that we have cut out, and they were asking why we cut them out. I said, guys, I'm just trying to control as many variables as I possibly can to keep everybody safe. And I get it. I get it's a sacrifice. I get it. It's a challenge, but we got a pretty good thing going right now, and I want to try to sustain it as long as we possibly can. But me and Andy Mutton talk all the time. The minute you drop your guard, that you think you're in a good place, or you say something in a press conference, or you say something, after a game, it can get you. So I'm going to keep respecting the virus, and I'm going to keep respecting all the policies and procedures that the Big Ten has in place. I listened to Andy Mutton and Wayne Sebastianelli and Dr. Billy, and we just keep pounding. I think a great message that we keep pounding is treat everybody you come in contact with like they have the virus.
We have time for 2 more. We'll start with Nate Bauer.
Hey, James. One more offensive line question for you. How did your approach to the offensive line change, if at all, without spring practice in terms of plugging and playing? You talked about a couple of weeks ago on the radio show, Will Fries getting some reps at guard. Did you have to strike a balance between experimentation versus finding a 5 and getting them ready to go?
I think that's a fair point, that we probably could have, got a better feel. Trout could have got a better feel, and Kirk could have got a better feel, this spring, and then kind of looked at some moving parts more. But I will tell you, the number of practices that we've had has allowed us to still do that to a degree. But I do think, they were coming in somewhat blind because they hadn't been through it in the spring. But I feel like we got some moving parts, and we got some other wrinkles to allow the guys to gain some experience as well.
Last question to Greg Pickle.
Hey, James, how are you?
Good, Greg. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much. Coach, when will your guys' tests last before a game? When will you get those results? And I know there's some different policies, so will you have to report those or no?
I'm sorry. I want to make sure I get that again. What was the question again? When is the last time we'll test?
Yes, before kickoff, when will you get those results? And then has there been any finalization in terms of if you have to make that stuff public or no?
Yeah, all the stuff on whether it's public or not, I don't know. I'm assuming that the Big Ten has policies for all that. You guys have been getting all that information. I think the Big Ten probably more so than most other conferences has been putting those numbers out. I read some things where some programs are saying it's a competitive advantage to put this stuff out. I haven't seen any of that in the Big Ten. I know we're not doing that. But we haven't had a game day. We will test Saturday morning, game day, obviously. And there has been everybody in the conference, I think, has had some false positives. And that's a little bit of the nervous anxiety, I think, that I have a little bit is you can have a few guys that get flagged on Saturday morning and, then they get retested and the retest comes back. It's a false positive and they can't play in the game. But again, at the end of the day, these were all the decisions and all the protocols that we put in place to keep everybody as safe as we possibly could. And the players knew that, and the parents knew that, and the coaches knew that. So there's not going to be a perfect system. And, you're probably going to have some people. And you're probably going to have some people held out of games, and some programs and some fan bases are going to be angry because it's going to come back as a false positive after the game and they could have played. But, again, at the end of the day, if we're thinking about doing everything we possibly can to keep everybody safe, and understand that the system is not going to be perfect, and we can't remove all risk, and we can't remove all the challenges. It is what it is. And to me, as long as everybody's playing under the same parameters, then it's randomly fair. There's going to be some challenges and issues with it. There's no doubt about it.
Thank you very much, Coach. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.